To reiterate, for those watching at home, we are looking at a skeletal mesh which has an animation tab. We've imported some animations that we got from Mixamo, and this is Javier's piece of art that he made. Um, anyway, as I was saying, the mesh, there's something called a material ID. It says element 0, element 1, element 2. This is kind of the array of materials that make up this character. So to identify those, let's see if we can. I can just like clear them out, and you'll see where they are at. Right. So we can actually do multiple materials on one character, and then of course the pants. So we can actually do. We can either fuse all these things to one thing and have one material ID, or luckily we have 3 to play with, so we can have a little bit more fun. And this is all I've loaded in for this. Is I have this one character with animations and just starter content for today, a little third-person character. Today, this is the list of things to get to. Oh, there was a list of things to get to. I have 2 sublime texts for some reason. All right, so here's all the things we're going to do today, really quickly. So we're gonna spend a lot of time in materials today, and I'm gonna keep the ones we have. I'm just gonna start making new ones from scratch, and then also make some from textures that I'll just download from the internet with you guys. So we'll start off by taking a little closer look at the material editor, which I right-clicked in the empty space, created a new material, and this will be week 5, number 1. And we're just going to explore a little bit in case you haven't seen everything. This is the material, the material node that has all the inputs for all the information. And we haven't really talked about the details panel, which is hidden over here on the left side. So a lot of you guys have been making mainly surface materials that are opaque. And opaque means you can't see through and there's no transparency whatsoever. And if I take a look at a color in here, which I just put in there by typing 3 and clicking, which means it's 3 variables, R, G, and B. I could put in a color for a base color, and everyone's pretty comfortable with that by now. But if I take a look at some of the other options, if I click back on here, the materials, I can see that I can also do some interesting things like I can make it masked, which means I can put either it'll be transparent or it won't be transparent. It's either on or off. Or I can do translucent, where it actually has a gradient for it going from opaque to completely transparent. And we can take a look at those in just a second. The other thing to look at here is a shading model. You'll be able to see this in feedback up here. This is a default lit. This means it takes lighting and takes shadows. If you're going to have something that was going to glow, you wouldn't want it to actually have to calculate shadows, so you'd make it unlit. And this is kind of more of a, you have to go into the emissive channel, and this is more of like just a standard no shadow kind of tune looking material. There's some other ones that you might get into, like you can really make some changes with subsurface, which means that it's skin, and this is a way of getting a little bit of like light reflecting deep into the skin. And if you want to do cars, clear coat gets you nice cars. But we're not going to really do anything like that. It's just good to know that those are there. You can also, I think, Alt and click and get rid of the connection. And then you can Control and click to carry the connection to the Command and click on a Mac. Let's see, to take it somewhere else. There we go. Then you have some other options down here that you can also, I just click down here, this little arrow down at the bottom. I'll show you 2 things really quickly, and because we'll be using them off and on, is that we can also add in a wireframe look. So this is just built in, and it'll show the wireframe of the actual model that you're using. And then oftentimes when you can see through something, you want to make it 2-sided so you can see the other side as well. If I went to, for instance, this planar surface, and I took off 2-sided, when you turned it around, it would be invisible. And some of you guys might have seen that if you like walked through meshes and you didn't know why they turned invisible. So now you have 2-sided. So let's see the order in which we're going to do this. Great. So we're going to do simple math, just to get into the idea of how you can add textures and multiply textures and append textures. So I can add a texture node here, and I can load in something from this starter content pack, and I have like the body, for instance, and let's just use that. So this could be actually the base color. I'll take off wireframe. And take off the emissive color. So you can see that I can either just add that in there, or put that in there, or I can actually type in, right click and say add. All your math functions are here: add, divide, test them all out, multiply, dot product, all that kind of stuff is here. And if I just click on it and I say, it has an option for a constant A and a constant B, and I can put in, I type in 1 for a constant, and I can just say I want to add in a little bit to this base color. Let's say this pink, I'm going to put it into here and then add, which is basically going to be all 3 colors, R, G, and B, so it's just basically going to make it brighter. It's going to blow it out. But you can also add 2 colors together should you need to, or you can add 2 textures together and get the combination of them. And the same way you can multiply and divide. You can also, dealing with emissive colors, you can go above 1. So you can go from 0, so emissive right here is just going to be green. But if I want to multiply it by a larger number, and let's just start off with, let's say 20. So I'm multiplying this number right here by 20. You'll see that now you can actually make glowing textures this way. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Is there a way to turn off glow in Unity?
Is there a way to turn off glow overall? So yeah, there's a. It's like the very, very last lecture will be on post-processing filters and how to do all that kind of stuff. If you're going to go into your materials, you can obviously just disconnect everything from emissive, and it'll get rid of all glow. But that's a great one, and it's super fun to tie into different events, and we'll be doing that a little bit later on. Yeah, Matt.
Could I ask you a emissive color and it looks like it's glowing? Is that actually making a light source?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think you can say whether or not it will create shadows as well. So you can make your own lights, put a sphere in there or whatever, be the same thing. And you can really crank this and just be irresponsible with your computer and just see what happens. And you get all those pretty light flares and listen to your computer graphics card start humming. And then I also want to show you how you can also add things together. So this is 3 constants together, but I could just as easily have had created this from 3 RGs and Bs by appending them together. And these are considered vectors. So this is right click. So right clicking in the space will bring it up, and you'll see on the right side that there's some actual shortcut keys. Like for instance, these constants that I'm doing. These constants are tied to the numerical keys for 1 through 4, and I click and I hit those buttons, and they'll come out. And you'll see there's a lot of standard ones in here, like multiply and add and normalize and that kind of stuff. I could easily just say 2 vectors together for R would be, we'll say it's 0.5, 0.2, and that's going to be R, and it even tells you it's R and G, and then B will be appended to it later on. And we have the new emissive color, or the new color. It's really quite ugly. And adjust everything here. And this will become important in a second when we start adjusting just one channel of a texture. Alright, so let's look at some alpha channels. I went on the internet and I found a little picture of a, well, you can call it dog if you want to. Dog. As you know, that this week is all about playing God. So that works for us. And if you guys have ever tried to import something and it seems like it's not going to go, just give it a second. It will eventually go. Looking at texture editors, we can see that this does have an alpha channel. It's a PNG, and it's black and white. Only black, only white. And you can see the different channels here if you want to make sure that it does have an alpha if the checker box is not good enough for you. So we're going to use the alpha channel but also the black channel in two different ways to show you how to. This is going to get really messy after a while. I know, it's going to be fun. So we're going to bring in dog. And just by dragging it in, well, I thought I was going to bring it in that way. By selecting it, going into week 5, typing T for texture, and then saying, I'm just not having luck with that today. T for texture. And just bringing it in. So let's just really quickly show you the difference between using, this has all colors, red, green, blue channel, and alpha. So if we turn this texture into an opacity texture, masked, this is either on or off, we go into the color, and we see that it does have black there, but it's not transparent. We have an opacity mask that we can go into. So if we go into take the alpha in there and go to the opacity mask, it's now transparent where we had the alpha channel makes sense. If we use the color channel, then our black will go away and become, well, it's supposed to. It's done it before. Probably if I went to translucent. Okay, so you can see I can use different channels to get different kinds of alphas and different returns from all these kind of things. The translucency shows also, it could show over time as well. So if I right click, I can see that there's a time function. And I'm just going to use a sine wave to oscillate the transparency. So I'll go for time, do a sine, and then see his character kind of throb. I could do the emissive color. And you can always mess with time as we play, because we're God, by dividing it and slowing it down, or speeding it up. And then because this goes from -1 to 1, you can always do some quick math to add 1, so that you're not getting clipped at 0, and then you can divide that in half. And divide by 2. And so now it's always doing something. All right, so we have our movement across time in position, but you can also pan and rotate these textures. So literally, just panner and rotator are two amazingly fun things. So I'm going to put that into the UVs, and then if I click on it and they go to the details panel, now we're panning, and that's says speed X and Y if you can't see that there, and you can go pretty darn fast, and whatever you think you need.
Can you show rotating?
Yep. So in the same way we have panner, we have rotator. And it has this coordinates in here, and this is where you could put your UV coordinates if it has something custom besides a 1-to-1. You can put that in there. So rotator, and it's from the center point of wherever your UV textures is. So now I think it probably has A speed, yeah. So we can choose a center, which is 0.5, meaning the center of whatever, wherever you have your material. And then we have the speed at which it goes. And of course, you can combine the things if you want to, or have a lot of fun with that. Yeah.
Is it just a fine one? So it's not always mirrored or that?
That's actually in the texture. So if I open up the texture again, you'll see that, and I haven't actually looked at this, but I'm sure it's here. Let's see. I haven't looked at this recently, but I know it's here. It'll have wrap. There it is. So you have wrap, clamp, and mirror right there. So we'll set that as a texture before you bring it in. Or if I save it here, it'll update the material. All right. So I'm going to go into Photoshop and just create like a custom gradient and some other stuff. You can use GIMP, free open source software, if you prefer that. We have Photoshop on the computer and there in the black box. So I'm just going to create I'm going to create a texture that's square. This used to be way more important doing powers of 2 and textures that are square for older graphics cards, like how it actually was able to process it. It's not as important at all today with modern graphics cards, but it's just kind of an old habit. So I'm going to make a 1024 by 1024 texture. Use my wonderful gradient tool. Use the rainbow. And there we go. And I'm going to export that to a PNG. Wink. To week 5. Sounds good to me. I'll bring that in. I'll just hide. Import it. And now we have a lovely texture that we can add in to, we can create a material out of that. And we can just pan it to the right and get a seamless panning texture. Easily. Yeah. You can rotate and pan at the same time. You can actually rotate some elements and pan other elements. So we can just, T for texture. I'm going to bring in some other random things. This is not going to probably turn out very pretty. But I can bring in our dog. And I'm going to give it a opacity. Make it a masked, and then we can use our dog to rotate. Rotator. I mean, this is basically everything you want. I'm sorry if I'm doing your guys' finals for you. I'm really, really, really sorry. I was like trying to teach you guys to fish, not try to give you a fish. That's just the problem. And then, of course, because the internet's random as I am sometimes, let's go find some normals. And that looks lovely.
What are normal?
Oh, so, and I'm going to go into this right now, actually, a little bit more. So normal maps, and we made them when we did Crazy Bump. It's a way of faking 3D geometry onto a 2D surface. It's the way light hits. This is basically a red channel that goes, I think, we'll look in a second, that goes down, and a green channel that goes across. And it shows how light actually will hit off of this object without actually adding any extra geometry to it. It's a wonderful little quick trick to do. And then we'll take a look at what it does when we throw it on. We'll put this down here next to the dog. Looks like that was I wasn't even paying attention. That was a GIF. I'm sure we'll just use this normal right here. This will be fine. So we'll go into texture, and we'll take a look at it. Actually, what we'll do is we'll take a better look at that for you, to exemplify what we're talking about. So if I'm just going to look at this texture, blue is just a reference. Well, we'll take off red, and we'll take off green. Blue is just a reference layer. It just shows the actual edges and lines. If I take it off and I show you that green is showing, and if I put on blue as well, so green is showing how these shadows are going to hit it. You can see there's a light source at the bottom. I can also flip this and make it look like they're coming from the top. And this is just a lot of like wonderful vector math where you can change constants to think that they're RGBs, that they're left and rights, and that kind of stuff. It's using the channels for more information. There's the red channel, and that's showing shadows coming from the other way. You can see how it actually comes from the left and goes to the right. And then we put this in. We'll probably have to remove some of our craziness so you can see it a little bit better. I will, with it selected and saved, go in here, texture. And because it's selected over there, it went ahead and loaded it in automatically. And I put it into normals. And you can see it looks like there's more geometry there. And so anyway, that's a cool thing, is that you can have these this extra geometry, and we can actually take the you can actually take this information, the R and the G, and we can append them together. We can say pinned to get the bump information we want, because we don't care about the blue. We want to keep the blue the way it is. We're going to take these guys, and now that I know about multiplying, I'm going to multiply these guys by a constant. And I want to increase my bump. This is a way of making it look like it's even more raised or less raised, and having control over that dynamically. So I'll just say a constant for right now, which soon we'll be doing variables. Just right now it's constant. And then I'm going to append this back together to make it 3 colors together, and this goes into the normals now. And we'll see there's no normals because this is a 0, and if I put this a 5, it has extreme normals. If we were to actually save this and completely freak out this world, this one, which one was it? Untitled 1. I'm very good at file management today. Save. That's not it, because it's not moving. Save. So now we got some craziness going on in our world. And you can see that this looks like it has much deeper shadows than if I went back to 5 and I said, let's make this just 1. And this is kind of a way of getting, like, this is called bump mapping, and this is a way of getting some bumps. This is some crazy bumps. And this is all considered a shader. This is all easy for it to process without having to do as much geometry. There's less of a shadow there. And there's transparency. I can see through there. It's all masked. And lose reference. Oh, so we're going to do, thanks to Eve for figuring out a lot of this stuff with me, we're going to be doing the flipbook now. She gave me a great link for us to put things back together. We're going to create just a really quick animation and show you how to basically get your animated GIFs. And here I know that Janae already knows how to do this really well. But you can just create any animation you want to, and you can get some, if people know After Effects or something like that, you get some really high quality animations, some really great particle effects and that kind of stuff. And you can leverage these alpha channels the depth that you can do in those programs and create really simple flat animations that have textures that are looping. And a lot of the fires are actually things like that. So I'm just gonna, I probably even have it loaded from when I was messing around with it. Yeah, so here's like a little sprite I made. And it's wingdings, which you guys love wingdings. So it's wingdings. I add a little bit of squash to it so that it looks a little fun. And this is just a 480 by 480 texture. It's small because I'm going to be creating a sprite sheet, and I'll explain that in just a second. So I'm going to take this, and I'm going to export it as individual images. Sorry. Add to render queue, and because it's a cooking show, I probably already have it someplace. Yeah, I already have it someplace, so I'm not even going to worry about rendering it out. That's in week 5. Love cooking shows.
How did you?
Okay, I'll do it. Don't worry. Yeah. So After Effects. I mean, I could do this from scratch, or I could do it one of these some time. But basically, this is a text object that I'm ping-ponging up and down. That's all it is, and this is actually on an alpha channel for us to play around with later on. So it's just text. And then I'm going to add this to the render queue again. And then I could tell it to export as PNGs. So first I'm going to give it a name, tell it where I want to go. I'm going to have a new folder called new folder. And I'm going to save it there. And under output, I'm going to say, instead of PNG, I want to make it instead of QuickTimes, I want it to be PNGs. All right. So it's going to make a series of, I'm going to hit render, and it's going to be happy. I did what?
I don't think you did alpha.
Oh, see, there you go. That's awesome. Thank you. So when I changed it to PNG, it had the option of comp 1 of adding an alpha channel, and that would have wasted a lot of time. So thank you. So I could do the RGB channel, I could do the alpha channel, or I could do the RGB and alpha, which is what I want. I want to include the transparency behind it. You can do them in separate passes if you want to have more control, but this is fine for me. So I'm going to make a new folder for that one. This one's going to be called new folder final. And then I'll render it out there. All right, so I could bring in a whole bunch of images into Unreal, but that's not really the great place for that. There's actually a little HTML5 sprite sheet generator that he found and shared with me. Is this the one? No. And it's like a little script that I'll just open up our Slack. There we go. And I'll now put this in. Do we have a week 5 yet, Javier? Okay. Week 5 and stuff. So now everyone else has it. And this is a little script you can download right here. And then on a Mac, you would download it in under Applications, under Presets and Scripts. And on Windows, you put it right here. And once it loads up, you have.
Yeah, and sorry, I haven't heard Sprite used before.
Okay. Oh, sorry. So sprite sheets. So a sprite sheet is basically it's commonly used in animation in 2D, and basically it's like a film strip that we're going to go through. It has the different poses, and just like frames inside a film being passed by the lens, we're going to be putting these through a thing called Flipbook, and they're going to render out a little 2D animation for us. And you don't have to have people walking, but in a lot of cartoons, they make sprite sheets with transparencies that they can overlay, and these are just loopable things like loopable backgrounds, loopable whatevers, and it's often used in video games. It's a good way to store imagery, and what's more importantly for Unreal, and I'll show you when I load in video in a second, we can actually do custom sizes, whereas video is very limited to an HD format. This is a custom way to get custom movement and animations inside of the material editor. And if you're not familiar with Photoshop scripting, you can download various presets that automate processes. You're just going to sit back, and it's going to load everything for you. And what we want to do is we want to load in all the images as a layer. And I think it just tells you, it says load files into a stack. That's a built-in preset. And then it has every single image of the animation there. And then we're going to use the script to create one sprite sheet, which is going to be one long sprite sheet from all these animations. And then we're going to load them up and animate them as a texture in Unreal. So in Photoshop.
So the process is you made it in After Effects.
Mm-hmm.
You turn it into a sprite sheet in Photoshop.
Yeah, let me show you the renders of After Effects. So these images, which are fairly small, and you might not be able to see with the resolution there, is the sequence of that animation as individual stills. And we're going to stack them as layers in Photoshop. And if you want any guidance in Photoshop, I'll definitely sit with you sometime. Anyone is interested in that. But we're just a very functional thing. Just know that this is what we're going to be doing. We're going to be loading. Going to go down here under File, Scripts, and load files into stack is built into Photoshop already. We're going to choose a folder, and it's week 5, new folder, final. There you're going to go, attempt whatever, and it's just going to go through them. It's going to open them all up, copy and paste them back over to, and you see in the top right side, here's all the different images loading in automated. And what I want to do is I want to make them one image to be one texture to make a material out of it in Unreal. So I think everyone's going to have like a whole lot of movement going on this week with their homework, as much as possible. And while it's doing that, we're also going to do movies, so I'm going to find a movie. This is taking a few moments. So I'm just going to go to YouTube and find a movie. And I like to have fly traps. And I want I want spiders, snails. No? No? Digestive cycle of a fly trap? No one? I got this one earlier. He worked. There we go. So, okay. Puppies! Yeah, puppies. There we go. Funny puppy compilation. Okay. Guys, goodness. Wow. Oh my.
I
What?
never thought I would be mad that didn't want to see.
Okay. So, sorry guys, we are multitasking. We are looking at videos and looking at sprite sheets at the same time. I'm just going to download this real quick. I don't know if this is illegal, if I can even show you that, but that is. Save link as Funny Puppies Compilation. New. We'll just change that to not safe for work. And then we'll download it. And that's MP4, and that is actually the file type we need, so this works out great for us. If you ever want to convert anything to an MP4, I recommend the free program, Handbrake. It does the best bang for your buck. It's free, open source for downloading and converting both 720p HD videos and both 1080, 720. And it's just like you drag them in and hit start. You can batch process things too. And that's both Mac and Windows. It looks like we have our video that's downloaded, and I'll show you that in a second. It looks like our Photoshopness is done, and it has the beginning is on the top, and at the end is on the bottom, and it's 2 seconds at 30 frames or 15 frames per second. So it's 2 seconds at 15 frames per second is what I did. You can choose whatever you want to. You just experiment with that. And then we're going to use that script to export it to one script to create sprite sheet from layers. And each of these different layers is considered a sprite. And I'm just going to keep it default. The funny thing is, if you went to ITP 15 years ago, you'd use a program called Macromedia Director, and it was all about sprites. That's all you do in ICM. Yeah. I chose the wrong color. What you can't see is that this is all those images lined up and down. for a long, long distance. And if I just showed one channel, you'd be able to actually do that, but my Photoshop foo is not that great either.
Wait, how many rows did you choose?
I chose one, so now you can see a little better. It's just one long thing that animates, and it's going to be loopable. If you are on Windows, there's a wonderful program called Glue It that helps you make square textures a little easier to look through. Glue It, if the website's down, I'll give it to you when I'm at home on my Windows computer. And so, oh yeah, I got to export it. So we're going to export this and import it into Unreal. So I'm going to save as PNG, and this is ding wings. Oh, it'd be dog wings though. There we go. No compression, no interlacing. Great. So let's go back to Unreal. It's been a long time. You miss it. Oh yeah, that was what was happening. I forgot about that. It's been worse, don't worry. There's my mouse. Literally just lost my mouse. There it is. Import. The dog ate my mouse. Wing ding PNG. Okay, great. Oh, that's the one I made yesterday, but it's the same thing. Okay, so we're going to look at this. It is still, again, the same thing. This is a very long, one row, 30 image thing, and I'm going to save it. And we are going to create a material out of it by right-clicking on it and saying Create Material. And now we have a super long thing that it doesn't really understand what's going on. So there's an object called it's called Flipbook, and Flipbook is it's a material function. It's not something we've gone into yet. This is something if I double-click, you'll see that it's something that somebody's already built into Unreal, and it's some math processes for dividing and conquering with sprite sheets to render them out over time. We won't get into material functions probably. And so we tell it how many rows. So I'm going to press 1. I didn't say anything, Siri. And the number of columns is 1. And this is giving us how we're processing the UVs, just like we did with the pan and the rotator. It's going to go in here, and then we're going to do it in the base color. And then save. Good file.
Did you put 30 as in those rows?
30 is the number of rows is incorrect. It was number 1. It takes a village to raise a sprite sheet. And let's do. There we go. So now we have an animated thing. The top option here, animation phase, is a way of speeding up and slowing it down if you want to mess around with time and dividing time by some sort of function. Time is divided by some fraction of time to get rid of, to only use the decimal point. And then we can multiply by that by some constant. Oops. To change the animation phase. But I like the way the speed is, so I'm just going to kind of leave this off as a reference. So now we have a wonderful thing. This is great. And what do we know? We know about panners now. So let's pan the guy. Go into the UVs here, and now I got a little hop along. And what if we try to break it? Oh, that's great. That's exactly what I wanted. Let's go more. There we go. That's it. That's what we're wanting. So wingdings get us here. Save. And I think this will look great on my walls.
Yeah, so what if you wanted to tile that in the wall?
Well, so if you want to tile it on the walls nicely, we would have to go into the UV of the panner coordinate. You have to work your way backwards. UV's like the first thing you do. Just like in the blueprints have event where they give red for the things that trigger different events in blueprints. These red items are the things that are like controlling the overall size of your texture. So if you want to make sure it fits nicely, you can always type U and click, or U and click. There we go, and we have the coordinates. Repeat that. If you went in went in here, yeah. So you have to. So if the wall is an asset, it has a details panel. So when you click on it, you would have to. Yeah, you put in a material. That's not the wall though. That's this. So floor has that material in there. They would have materials, or you could drag them on, as you saw me do earlier. And because it has whatevers, I also want to go back here and make it double-sided.
They can't change their sync.
The U and the V.
Well, if you put that texture on two walls, the animation will run at the same time.
Yes, if you want to have like a front side of something and the back side of something, I would basically use two different objects back to back, maybe. Yeah. So the way I keep on using constants and saying the word constant, can I make some parameters and stuff? Yeah. So that's exactly where we're going right now. Yeah.
Like a totally viable thing to do, is that very processing intensive?
My computer's silent right now. Yeah. Let's go for it.
What if we look at just like videos?
Yeah. Oh, I hope so. I hope so. I mean, I'm always trying to break this stuff. That's where it's fun for me. I'm gonna save my project just in case, since Matt just reminded me that I could actually mess everything up. So if I go to here and I say, oh, well, let's go back to the movie. We have the puppies. Yeah, let's open up puppies. Okay, guys, puppies. Puppies. Not fly traps. Puppies. No, that's our dog. That's the puppies. All right, so now we're going to inspect this. This is considered a media player. This is not a texture yet. This is just a media player for us to kind of rock out. All right, I'm going to go to the bathroom. I'll be back in a little bit. You guys don't even know I'm gone. All right. All right. We'll see more. We'll see more. It's going to be loop. Oh, wait. It's still going to go. Well, okay. Well, we're just dealing with it now. Pause. All right. Different class. It's called fandom. Anyway. So this is a media player, but we want to create a texture. So this is a media texture. And it's still probably going to be playing. I think it's just stuck on the first frame or something like that. And then we're going to create that by right-click. Oh, I have to save. So it creates a file from it. And then create a material from there. And if all things are great, it should be playing. But it's not. So this is just something that I learned the hard way. And I'm just going to delete everything that I just did. Is that you have to actually put it in a special folder location. And this was very troublesome the first time I did this. No, cancel, look at cancel. Those are my favorites. What's going on? What's going on? Okay, great. That was fun. So, saving again. So there's actually, before I import it, I need to go into the same level as my contents folder for the project. So Unreal Projects, and then today's week 5. And next to content, or actually in content, I need to make a folder for movies.
Does it have to have the word movie?
Yep, this is just the way Unreal has been able to deal with this since like, I don't know, April. And it might have updated, and if it does, let me know. But that's how I diagnose that stuff. So now if I import again from Unreal Projects,
And MP4, right?
that was what?
MP4.
Yeah, it's MP4.
Oh, 720 by 1080 is also
1280 by 720, yeah.
1280 by 720.
Let's go here. There's a little scroller here. Good.
This all?
It's so tiny.
This all?
All right, let's keep that playing. There's a media texture. And this should be playing. Yeah, so this one's playing. So that's how I fixed it. Save. And now, so when I right-clicked on this media asset, I said create media texture. You can also take the sound wave off of that, and we're going to get into sound as soon as midterms are over because it's super important to make this stuff actually really, really convincing. And it's a lot of fun to have 3D sound that you can explore. But anyway, back to media textures, and then material, which is puppies with baby. All right, and this is going to load it into the base color. And there you are. And if I actually pause this, will this still be playing? No. So I'm going to keep it playing. Just close it, because this is going to get really annoying. I've never actually had sound on my videos. I do a little bit. Anyway, so this is now what we're doing today. This is how we work. Hope you guys deal. So puppies with baby. And we've done so much work that's really just worth like enjoying it. And it ended, but I think it's looping. So yeah. So this is, you can do all the processes you could do in, like, let's say jitter or whatnot. You can do all those same math functions. You can blend it with other movies. You can you have other functions like you can desaturate.
Also, what I was thinking, can you start the video from the website?
Yeah, that'll be a blueprint. It would be like on event begin play. You say play movie. Yeah, it's all possible.
Do you have Cypher?
Siphon does not work for Unreal as of yet. There's ways to get stuff out of Unreal to Siphon, but you can't do a texture in just yet. I was hoping one of you guys would figure that out because it's like bothering me. Okay. Yeah, but no, I mean, there's definitely people who are looking for it in different forums. The way you get one out of it was you just use the Blackmagic intensity we're getting for this class, and you would capture it to another computer and use Blackmagic over Siphon, and then you can render it from like another computer and do it live VJ from there. And I've done that. And then you can siphon over TCP to other people's Wi-Fi. It's a big VJ fun party, and I can show you all that kind of stuff too later on. So we're going to see what's on the list. Yeah.
So since we have media player and we also have sprite sheet, reason why we use sprite sheet is because it's faster.
Because media player only does 1280 by 720. If you need to play back, like if you need to have like a video that's in your world that's playing back on a TV screen, then like yeah, I bring it in that way. But if you need to have custom sizes and whatever, I would use sprite sheets. They load in as textures, and just the way the media player handles it. It used to be where it didn't do it on Mac at all, and it only read API. So we're getting closer to more support and better HD support as well. Real quick, I'm not getting any juice in my computer. We're about to. Can I use yours, Javier? And it's like So much better. All right. All right, let's see what's on the list. So, flipbook, missive. Okay, great. Panner. Yeah, UV. We did the glitch. All right, so now we're going to go into doing some variables. So we have all these things. Let's go to this wonderful material. So we have all these wonderful things like, let's say, a missive. So if I just go and give it a constant, and I say I want this to be just a missive of, let's see, is that right? All right. So we have a single number, but what if we wanted that to change? What if we want a lot of these things to change dynamically? Or if we just wanted to, let's say we made this awesome texture. We love this, but we want to use different texture samples, and we want to keep on using the same material over and over and over again, using these complicated settings over and over again, but we want to have some variables. So there is an option to take these constants and make them scalar parameters or vector parameters or texture parameters. And what's great about it is if you build this whole thing with constants and you want to be able to access it later, I can right-click on here, and I can say Convert to Parameter. Converting to parameter lets me name it. So I know this text is small, but right here it says parameter name, and I'm going to give it a name. And this is going to my emissive, so I'm going to call this glow. All right, and it has a default value of 20. And then let's say I wanted to have a color that I wanted to change over time, or let's see. Yeah, we could do it. So basically, if we go over here to the parameters section, you can see all the things that you can access from blueprints and change them either dynamically or at least make instances of this property. And we'll show a little bit of that. So scalar parameter, and then we have a texture 2D, which would be a way to load new textures in from instances. We'll do that right here. We'll turn this one into convert to parameter. Oh, I don't know if you guys saw that, but they use the most ugly default texture, so you'll remember to replace it. I'll show you. Okay. Like, look at this thing. It's like this weird, it's like the ugliest thing ever. Anyway, so we're going to give this guy a name so we can change it later. It's called, all this stuff was called this, the texture image. And then change the name up there. And then let's just run with that for right now. So we love this thing so much. We love, but we want to change the glow on a couple of other items. We have this character that has like different IDs that we can do the same thing over and over again, but maybe we want different textures on some of them and different amounts of glow on some of them. So let's go find this texture, which is right here, and I am going to right-click on there, and it says create an instance. So this is I'm going to open this up, and it's going to be a completely new way of looking at textures. So now we have this texture here. When I move it around, it animates, but it doesn't really do a preview unless I change that. So now I have this texture here, but look, I don't have all the nodes. I just have the two things that I said I wanted to change. I thought of the two things. Oh, I didn't save the other one. Okay. Save. And if I was handing this off to somebody else and I had a whole bunch of these, you can also create groups, and it'll start grouping them. So this is a thing about the glow. And then it has a drop-down list you can use to group them. Apply. Save. So now I have these two items that are here, and let's say this one right here, I don't want to have as much glow. Well, this one can by default be 4. Let's make it just 0, so it's completely different. So this one has 0. Save. I want another one from that main material. Create an instance. Again, I have these settings. If I want to change them, I can click on there, and I can change them. Slight alterations, because what if I spend all this time creating all these wonderful things, but I want just like a red one, a blue one, a green one? Creating instances is a way of really speeding up your pipeline so that you're only accessing all those constants, it's great to program as many constants as possible and just make what you need to change as variables. Yeah.
Do you use those parameters then in events or like?
Yeah, and that's where we're going to get to. Yeah, we can. These will be either we swipe out. We can make arrays of textures and call them by their index, or we can change the floating point scale of these items, so that we can do things based off of whatever synesthesia you want, essentially. So, and we have just enough time to show you that. So let's go. Let's take a look at our long lost lady. And I know that I can do inst. This is one material instance on her. Inst. And the other instance. Save everything. This is quality work, people. I'm raising my freelance rates. This is. I just expect the biggest rainbow vomit for homework assignments. You have to go there and then you can come back, right? Play with it. Then you can find yeah. So let's go ahead. We're not using the third person character. This is just too much. Sorry, I had a moment of doubt there. Okay, I'm gonna choose the floor and it's just something nice. Okay. All right. At least we have a floor we can use as reference now, so we don't get seasick. So I have this mesh here. I'm gonna load it into a blueprint. I'm gonna right click on there, and I am going to. Oh, you used to be able to say turn into a blueprint. Well, that's no big deal. I'll create. Well, because it's used as a skeleton mesh once we make an animation blueprint. We'll create blueprint using this. And I'm going to put it in my blueprints folder. And I'm going to call it, we're going to make these materials dynamic. This is called a dynamic material instance. So it's going to be dynamic lady. And it's going to open it up. And so there she is. And we've seen class blueprints before. This is, on the left, you can see that we have a skeletal mesh. We can parent objects to her if we really wanted to trick her out even further. And we have a viewport where we could see her. And then we have a construction script. And then the event graph where we could do interactivity. So if you look at the skeletal mesh and we look at these details, these things are things we can set up right now. They're very similar to what you could do. You could do all this stuff in the construction script. This is where you have your your void begin. I don't really code that much, but you can. All this stuff is also could be done in your construction script. You can load materials and all that kind of stuff. I can switch those things, but right now we're just going to worry about changing it dynamically in the event graph. So I'm actually going to go and take my third person because it actually has mobility tied to it, and then we'll switch the materials dynamically in him. So third person has movement. These are just the input commands for going up and down and jumping. I'm going to ignore those, and I am going to take the mesh, which is the character that has these simple materials on them that I can look at. You can still see this is the guy doing the thing that has a thing going on. So I didn't. I actually I realized I didn't have this lady set up for locomotion, for jumping, which is what I wanted to do. So I jumped over to the third person, and then through here I can edit his third person blueprint, or I can come up here to the content, go to blueprints, and that's not her. Go to content, third person, and blueprints, and I can open that up here. And so he just is in here with his camera and his little camera boom that you can change the length of and the offset of. And Will has some great examples of doing this kind of stuff. Go bug him. But I'm going to go and I'm going to look at the mesh. And first of all, you have to tell the computer to allocate resources to it being dynamic. So we have to set a material dynamic instance. I'm just going to look for the word dynamic. All right. And because we're not triggering this right now, we're not going to trigger it off of an event. I just want to kind of always be looking at it. I always want to be polling it. And whenever this thing I'm about to do happens, I want it to always be looking to change this material. So I'm going to use, instead of event overlap, I'm going to use the event tick. And this is just always going to be running, and it's going to look for some other parameters that I'm going to give it today. Then we look for our materials that we're going to be changing. So I am going to be looking for material instance 1. And then I need to find out what index number it is from that array. So material instance 1 from my dynamic lady. Oh wait, it's from the other guy, from third person. Dude is, so I'm going to load in it. So I know that it's index 0. This 0. I'm saying, yes, I know you can be dynamic, but I want to go ahead and allocate resources for you. So go ahead and start by making it a dynamic material instance. All right, it has material, an index, and the target is the mesh that has it. And then now what we want to do is that this, we're going to go for the glow. And so the glow is called glow. This is the parameter we set up. It's a scalar parameter. We're going to scale that parameter. So I'm going to look for scalar parameter. I'm going to set it. And you see when I drug off the return value, the target, it went ahead and connected to execution too. The parameter name, well, we already named it, and we called it glow with a capital G. I wish it was a drop-down menu that would just let you search all the parameters you made, but it isn't that way right now. I'm sure it will be another version. And then we see we can give it a value. This value, we can just give it a number right now, and then when we start the game, it'll be that value, but we can also make it change. I'm going to get this mesh. I'm going to get the world location of it. I want to know where he's going. And I get another vector. This is a 3 vector. And then I told you guys maybe like 2 weeks ago that you can actually, you can either say, I want to break this vector, because it's 3 things we want to turn to 1. You can break a vector into X, Y, and Z. Or as of this version 4.8, I can just split it right here and not even worry about doing that. And I have X, Y, and Z. And then green means float. You see it says return value for the Z. Z is up in Unreal. And that's all I'm doing. Whatever number he is when he starts, it'll increase if I jump. So he's pretty bright to begin with, so let's see if we can still tell. Oh, I messed up with the camera. Yeah, I messed with the camera, it's fine. Well, there's also light. Here, let me just fix the camera real quick, because that was just me messing around. And save. And then let's set it up so that the mesh's initial material is 0. Okay. Let's take it for a ride. What was that? Yeah, it's not going to be on the ground. It's like 11 centimeters up. So a jump, you should get brighter. There you go. So we want this to be a lot crazier, maybe, or less crazy. So we could also do math in blueprints. So, sure. So I can actually, this is a float, and I want to divide it by a float. I can say divide, and I can write the word float, and I'm going to divide a float by a float. And just like in the materials, we can do a little math. and maybe I want it to start off absolutely black, or I could divide because I know it's 11 centimeters up, or whatever. I'm just going to divide by a decimal point. Compile, just so we can see this a little bit better. So now he's not as bright. A little brighter. But you see that this is just a matter of messing around with parameters. And in the same way I showed you guys before with the colors, we can also append certain colors. We want to change the color as we went around, and that's not it. What's next? What's done? So we have the glow, and we have the texture, which you can switch out the texture every time we make an instance. We can also take off some sort of multiply. I mean, this is just all kind of random math, and add another scalar parameter. That we can append to the green. And so now if you've ever opened up a really complicated blueprint, you can see how you can make it complicated quickly. And so this one, I'm going to take off glow. You can see it. Or not all my demos go great. But anyway, so this is the idea of making dynamic. As I walked around, I could change it from Z to X if I wanted to. So let's just do that real quick and say, let's just make this from X instead. So it looks like this is positive X, and that's negative X. So right when I go to positive X, he starts getting brighter and brighter. But also, yeah, we could just trigger values if we wanted to, and just have it when he hits a certain box. You can do those things. So my list, we made it. We made it perfectly. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, we'll just talk about the homework and the midterms that are in 2 weeks. Any material questions? Sorry. So yeah, you don't have to use any of that, right? I just think it's fun. So I'm going to stop this recording.